Hello, and welcome back to Three Legacies Recovery Recording Podcast, where we explore the ongoing journey of recovery and the spiritual growth that comes with it. If you enjoy our program, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to share with a friend. Please note that the views expressed on this podcast are solely our individual views and do not represent any official stance of any 12-step program. We are not affiliated with any specific recovery organization, and this content should not be considered professional advice for alcoholism or addiction.
Hello everyone, this is Paul with Three Legacies Recovery Recording Podcast with a quick note before we get started. The opinions shared by our guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of our podcast. Our goal is to simply provide a platform for honest, open conversation. We don't make any money off YouTube or any of the other platforms. This podcast is completely self-supporting and we've spent a lot of money, time, and energy into it, simply just because we love doing it. We're not trying to make a profit, but we are trying to cover our upcoming expenses if that's at all possible. If you'd like to be a part of that, you can make a contribution at our Venmo, which is Recovery Recordings 615. We'd like to keep this commercial free. Thank you. Hello everyone, welcome back to Three Legacies Recovery Recording Podcast. I'm your host Paul, and today is Sunday, June 21st, 2026. Happy Father's Day to everyone. This is episode 120. If you'd like to reach us at our email address, you can reach us at recoveryrecordings615@yahoo.com. You can also find us. We have a private Facebook page. Get over and send us a request to join. It's Three Legacies Recovery Recording Podcast. We're also on Audible, Spotify, iHeartRadio, several other major platforms, Podomatic, etc. Apple Music, I believe. Let's see. Upcoming events. We have Billy N from Palm Beach Gardens, Florida coming on. I think it's next Tuesday, June 30th. Not this, but next Tuesday, June 30th. We're going to be doing an episode calling it Understanding the Seventh Tradition. Really excited about that. Also, July 5th, which is the following Sunday, we have Kat V from Philadelphia. Really excited about that. Kat had joined us on the show, I don't know, it's probably 7 months ago, something like that, and really enjoyed connecting with her. No, we're not sure what we're going to do for the topic on that yet, but I'm sure we'll come up with something cool. My prayer today is that something spoken here touches someone's heart, draws them closer to the Spirit, and helps them receive strength needed to keep moving forward through healing, hope, and renewal. And I'm excited about today's guest. We have Sarah I from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. How's it going?
Hi there.
Hello.
Hey, it's going well. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
Happy Sunday.
Thank you for joining. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Before we got on here, you had mentioned doing some training for this upcoming marathon. Let's talk a bit about that.
Oh boy. Well, part of it is my people pleasing, and I can't say no to my niece. But
Nice.
No, it's interesting. It was sort of tying into like what we're even talking about today. Is like expanding further from the 12 steps. I had to find ways that would where I could just holistically like get into that that whole body, mind, spirit thing. And my daughter tricked me into running a 10-miler. It's like a local race where you have to go into a lottery. And she was like, just sign up. And if I get picked and you don't, you can give me your bib. And so I signed up and we both got picked. So she's like, well, you're running this with
Nice.
me. And what happened is I found that when I'm in this place where I'm running and I'm focused on where to plant my feet and how to breathe. So, and being actually able to breathe, I learned that it was able to quiet my mind. It almost became meditative. And so I ran a full marathon, bucket list kind of thing in April of 2023, shortly after I lost my brother. And then I just thought, all right, well, I'm not really going to do distances anymore. But my niece has circled back and said, let's do this with a charitable organization for people in recovery and to honor, Benjamin, my brother's death. And how do I say no to that? So Here I am trying to stretch out the miles again.
I love that. Yeah. I currently have I love how you were talking about the body connection. I have a sponsee that just got back in, he's been in and out for several years, but he's a bodybuilder. So whenever he'll call me in his head or whatever, when I'm, when we start talking, walking him through getting out of his head, he's a bodybuilder, so he's got that muscle connect, the mind muscle connection,
Mm-hmm.
to build the muscle. So he's familiar with that. He just,
Yeah.
he's still in his head for a bit right now. But yeah, I love that.
Well, that true too is something I have to be careful of with anything,
Yeah,
especially now in sobriety, talking about the emotional aspect of sobriety is that if I start doing anything obsessively, including running,
sure.
right? Because I did cross the line at one point doing that as well. And running an imaginary race in my head, trying to beat my own miles, becomes more
Yeah,
of a compulsion than it does a spiritual exercise, which again, to the point of what we're talking about today is like, am I doing all of these things in my life, including Alcoholics Anonymous, like manically, compulsively, obsessively, in order to produce a result rather than just experiencing these things? And I have to watch for that.
yeah,
It's really important that I continue to watch for those things. So
yeah. That's what the Buddha would talk about. The middle way, right? That's what he talked about. Is
yeah,
excessively going either directions is no good.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
It's
love
not
it.
even about the doing, it's about the being part of it.
There you
Yeah.
go. Yeah. For the listeners, we're calling this episode is called "Embracing the Power Beyond the Steps," and I love that. I love it because I went through phase several years ago. I got into this phase. Well, here's my experience. Let me back up. So before this, when I first got sober, I wasn't necessarily like in a steps. It was more like just meetings, a whole lot of meetings, right? I was in a recovery
Mhm.
house. The home group I
Mhm.
had was on the same property as the recovery house, and it was just a bunch of, we were all new and we were just doing the best we could. And then about 4 or 5 years sober, I kept running into some issues over and over and over and over again. I had I hadn't been applying the principle, steps pretty much. And then I had these pretty profound experiences. I had a whole lot of profound experiences before that too, though, like through meditation and like what we were just talking about,
Mhm.
getting out of the head, getting in the body. And then, about 5 years sober, I ended up going through an experience where, like, I, found some big book people. I'd heard KDP and Charlie P talking,
Mhm.
about,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden I was like drawn to it, and I ended up hooking up with them and getting connected, and then so I was a big, huge big book guy, but I would use it to beat people over the head with it for so long,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
um, you know, coming out of that, on this side now, it's funny because I kind of go back to the original, like, man, the don't get me wrong, I still, like how you just said, we don't over obsess either way, but I still go back to my roots of just connecting with people and community and, like,
Mhm.
and so yeah, embracing this power. Before we got on here, we did a little prayer where we just sat quietly and kind of experienced and just tapped in, and here we are having a conversation
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up, that hitting people over the head and beating people up with the steps. And I will say that I don't think there was anybody I beat up more with the steps than myself.
Mm,
I think I got into this compulsive, obsessive mindset about whether I was doing AA right or doing it good enough, or um, and I was like just missing. Like you, I have these same like profound experiences early on. I don't, I was thrown right in after multiple attempts and failures, right into the work because I was desperate and I was broken, and I have that like internal shift that they're reorganized thoughts, and I get that, and I'm like on fire for it.
yeah,
But at some point, and I can't identify when it happened, but like you weren't doing it the right way, and neither was I. And I'm holding everybody to this ridiculous standard of like how everybody should be practicing the steps, including myself.
yeah,
And it just heaped on the shame and judgment that I came into Alcoholics Anonymous with. It was like re-injuring myself.
so
And
true.
yeah. And it became a really painful place to be sober, and a disconnected place. Like that access to power that I gained through the initial work, through that desperation, started to diminish because I was just like blocking it off with worldly clamors of like, what's my reputation? Am I doing this right? Am I sponsoring enough? Like,
Yeah,
what does the world see?
yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I love how we were just talking about Kurt, but he mentions that, like, when, he drank at 19 years sober, and he
Hmm.
said that he was drinking for a couple years, but he was going to AA meetings, and there was this older guy that followed him outside one of the meetings. and was like, "Hey, I noticed that you raised your hand whenever they asked if anybody was a newcomer." And he was like, "That's not how this guy said. That's not what we designed that for. You've been around here for a little while." He said, "Every
Mm,
time you raise your hand to that question, you're activating guilt and shame that you're trying to, we're
mm.
trying to have some kind of defense against that, for lack of a better term. I forgot the word he used, but it's kind of the same thing, right? Like I go in, I'm beating myself. I'm not doing it right. They're not doing it right, etc. And it's just still self, just manifesting, right? And
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's painful self. Like
yeah,
my ego's never going to give me a good story about you or about me, and that's the problem. It's never going to, be like, you're an amazing person, you're a good person. Look what you did today. Like,
yeah,
thank God for like the 11-step review, where I'm like kind of forced to be like, hey, I contributed stuff today. But the truth is like that's not what my mind's shoveling. That's not what it's feeding me every day. It's feeding me. I can't believe you said that. You're such an idiot. Like it's just always feeding me that kind of lesser than um mentality. And when I take these beautiful steps that I'm given, this gift of freedom, and I know it's given me freedom, right? Because when it first started to occur to me that something was off, I had already experienced like the transformation of the steps. Like I knew this stuff worked. I knew it worked, but something was off. And at some point, it was like I was using these steps to like manage sobriety. And I remember when the profound awareness of it came in as I my sister died in 2015, and it was horrifically painful. Like I had never lost anybody that close to me, and our relationship had been transformed through the 12 steps. So I remember getting that call and just being shifted into this place of safety and neutrality by a loving God, right? But after that, I think how many years sober? I guess I had coming up on 4 years sober at the time. The only solution I really had in my bag at that point that I really knew how to get to through this profound grief was like, let me go work with another alcoholic. And and it works, right? Because
yeah,
I'm not I get that separation of self when I'm working with another alcoholic. But here's the problem with that is like all of the pain and the wound and the grief is all underneath there, and it needs to go somewhere. It has to come up, and it's coming up. I it's coming up some way, shape, or form. And if I'm not digging deeper and seeking more and doing some work to heal and grieve and actually let it release, and I'm just using these tools as a way to escape it,
mm,
it's coming out, and I don't have the awareness of that.
yeah,
Right? I don't know when, how, why, and I end up in a kind of dark place again, in a kind of pain. It's painful. It feels disconnected, and and I don't realize that I just used. And I know like some people get real if uncomfortable when I say stuff like this, but it's like I was just using newcomers to escape the pain, and that's it. And our book, the 12 steps, and I'm like, again, I'm not speaking for AA. This is just my experience because I know we're on you know, a podcast right now, but like the big book talks in chapter 7 about like working with another alcoholic ensures immunity. It works when all other methods fail. It did work. I didn't think about picking up a drink, but it talks about other methods. It brings up other methods, and so I have to remember that 12 step is not some escape route for me.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I can't
I love
I
you
can't
touched on
run
that.
to.
Yeah, yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. Because I went through the same thing. It's funny. I can't speak for everybody, but it's almost as if like, I've talked to a handful of people over the years that have all have this similar experience. It's just almost like it's just part of the process. I hate to say that
Mhm.
but the truth is like, and my first sponsor used to say, Paul, if we came in here and just all of a sudden, all at once, all this, these experiences, it would just be too much for us, right? And we grow into these things.
Mhm.
Um, and it was really about like, I started learning how to be compassionate with myself, like learning how to touch the
Mm.
feelings, learning how to
Oh.
be mindful, learning how to set in it, and it's funny. Right before we got on the conversation earlier, before we started recording, I remember I was sitting there thinking about, it's weird. I've been doing this for, this podcast is coming up on 2 years. This is episode 120, and I still have nervousness sometimes.
Mhm.
And it's okay. It's completely
Yeah.
okay, right? I acknowledged it, prayed, experienced
Yeah.
it, and just keep moving forward, right? And but yeah, I love how you touched on that. For and I can still do that. I'm sure, like kind of unconsciously, just kind of try to escape, and in all kinds of different ways, whether it's like scrolling on my phone or whatever it is, you
Ooh.
know how it goes, right?
I do.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah,
Also, I just to your point about being nervous, I've reached a point where if I ever get I've really started to believe that if I ever get to the point where I'm not nervous doing something like this or sharing my story or getting vulnerable, then I'm
yeah,
probably about to be full of shit.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
I'm sorry,
yeah,
I don't know if I can curse on here, but I'm probably gonna lie to you about something and it's probably not coming from a place of honesty and because that vulnerable place is deeply frightening. And so of course there's nervousness, right? And of
yeah,
course there's like what are you gonna think and what is the world gonna think and how many people will listen? Will nobody listen? Will nobody care? And but that running, trying to run away from that. And I am so grateful. Like, I have a messy, sober experience, right? I am not one of these, like, I remember coming in and hearing a lot of speakers get up from podiums and again, this is not a judgment, but like a lot of well-meaning people talking about a transformative experience they had where they have the this walk through the steps and it's like almost this beautiful linear journey where they're just like set free and everything falls into place and they just go with the flow of life and they allow life to unfold around them, and that just was not what happened to me.
yeah,
um After that death of my sister and after I tried to outrun that grief, it caught up with me and slowly, I mean, that and me stepping away from like the true spiritual practices that are embedded in the steps like 10 and 11,
yeah, mm,
where it turned into more of a performative act than it did a spiritual act.
yeah,
Um, I got hit with the truth in the middle of the pandemic, and what started to like I have that shame I come in here with, and I don't realize that at some point I need to address that. Like I need, and I'm even going to bring in like outside stuff like therapy, all the other ways that I need to seek healing from that stuff. I have that initial inventory, which felt icky a little bit just because, my sponsor did what she knew how, which was kind of look for your part. And I've got some sexual trauma there. Let's be real. It's very difficult to go look for your part. Uh, and I want, the book didn't even say that, come to find out later. But I go back and I'm like, "Oh, I have to look for my part in this?" And that was hard. And the woman who I crossed paths with and had been sponsoring me, and when I finally reached out in that place, broken is sober, when she was having a new experience at that moment, going through the steps, and she was learning about the expanded third column, and whoo, when I put pen to paper, and this is the first time I've done it multiple times since, but when I started looking deeper into that third column than I ever had before, like what's actually affected, I started to see that I am walking around like this bundle, like I'm just wounded. I am so deeply wounded. And when you touch my wound, I'm reacting to you.
yeah, every time,
And,
yeah,
and, and that was the healing work that I needed to have a profound experience with. I needed to continue. I need to continue to have that experience with, because seeing all of that, like, oh my God, look at how my self-esteem is affected by this, and look at how my pride is affected. And I know what these things mean today. And now the work I do with my current sponsors, we delve deeper into the third column than we do the fourth, because I know my reactions suck, right? They're better, but I know when I got to clean something up. I know when I'm being self-seeking. Like I can spot that, but can I spot the wound? Can I spot how you're threatening me, how you're poking me? And that for me is the healing and the deeper connection and the deeper work and the deeper stuff that has to go beyond this just sort of, yeah, I wrote it out. Yeah.
yeah. I love that. Yeah, yeah. No, I get it. I've done both. I tell you, probably about 5 years sober. Me and a group of guys went through the Big Book Awakening, and they really
Mm.
dive into the third column right there. And
That's the one.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that was a eye-opening experience, right? I get to see how much I'm invested in this stuff. Like, I'm so
Oh,
invested in such
God, right?
madness. It's like this lack of, like, and um, I've had great experiences on both cases, like on both sides, right? What I've
Mm-hmm.
noticed for me when I'm sponsoring a guy, and this isn't a cookie cutter thing, everyone's a little different, but like when I'm sponsoring guys that have been sober for a little while, the expanded third column generally works out better. But like for most
Yeah.
of the time when I'm working with a new guy, it's like brand new. Like you sit down and say, so let's talk about pride. How's your pride affected you? Like just talk twice this week. Generally, they don't even understand what that even remotely looks like. You get what I mean?
If you'd given me that Big Book Awakenings
Yeah,
breakdown when I first came, I
yeah,
probably would have run out the door.
yeah,
Listen, I
yeah,
am
yeah.
not knocking my experience. My
Sure.
experience is just what it
Yeah,
was,
yeah.
and it was sufficient for the time.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah,
was I was lit up in the beginning.
yeah,
I didn't realize I was carrying around all the deep shame, the deep fear. I didn't. It's like the layers of the onion that people talk about. Like, I don't realize it's bothering me until it's bothering me, until I'm starting to become aware of it. It's one of my favorite. I listen to Michael Singer all the time, a little outside of the stuff, but he talks all the time about the egoic mind and the this walking around with this idea of like I either have to avoid this to be okay or get this to be okay, and those are my two default settings, right? And I and it can be from the tiniest little minutia of life, right? The work stuff, the little gossip and the trying to get ahead, to the big like grief and loss and codependency and sexual trauma and all that other stuff. Like, and anywhere in between. But like you said, I'm so invested in the story. I'm so invested in the role that I've assigned you that you're not living up to again, or the my role in this. And I need to do some actual work. And by work, I want to be clear. I don't mean like I have any power to do anything about that,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Once I gain the awareness, I gotta go to a power that does. I gotta find I've gotta like surrender this part of me. And that can be difficult because oftentimes I think there's some payoff to holding on to it, right? I think, well, yeah, I keep acting in this sort of neurotic
Yeah. You see
fashion
how
and worry.
you see how limited your own will is. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm very limited. I have to get to, I have to. I like Richard Rohr. He talks about it, the analogy of like climbing up a ladder and getting to the top of it. Finally, and you realize you're leaning against the wrong wall.
Mhm.
It's like I get to see how limited my will is. It's like I remember
Oh
when I
my
first
god.
started doing when I actually it was when I went through the Big Book Awakening process. Had these like holy crap experiences,
Yeah.
and then, like, I started doing nightly review on a regular basis, and I was seeing how quick, like, this is still showing up all the
Yeah.
time, all the
Yeah.
time. And when you see that, you start seeing how limited you are, and how that's where you, like, for me, anyways, where I realized, like, God, I need help.
Yeah.
Because I'm constantly just living, like, just constant, constant, constant. And that's where, like, 6 and 7, it's where I get close to God. I start seeing, like, how my
Mhm.
failures are so vital. Like, I need that in my life. I need to come up short over and over again because I get a lot of value in that, right?
Oh, so much value in it. So
Yeah,
much value.
yeah,
To your point about like the having the awareness and having the same things crop up, it was I don't know if you have any familiarity with the it's like an unpopular study of the last three steps, and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
written by some program members, and like it's not for everybody, and that's fine. I remember reading this and like my paraphrasing, of course, but it talks in depth about why 10 and 11 have to exist together.
Mm,
Because like I essentially can, if I'm practicing 10, I can get hyper aware of my thoughts, by the way, which I can do that
yeah,
and have
sure.
done. Well, I'm watching. Boy, you're crazy. You're crazy. You're crazy.
Yeah,
You're
I
crazy.
did that this
I'm
week.
aware.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I did it 2 weeks ago,
yeah,
to the point where but I'm not surrendering anything because I'm not bringing the power into it. I'm not doing the seeking part.
yeah.
Like, I just like on my own power, I'm trying to correct my mind with my mind,
Oh
kind of.
yeah, yeah,
That's the loopy insanity of it.
yeah.
And then there's the whole what if I have 11 without 10, which also been there and done that. I
Mm,
went down like some wild rabbit hole of just going down a deep dive of the 11th step. I forget. Think this was around year 5 to 6.
mm.
Whew, boy, did I get weird. Because like I start doing like hours and hours upon guided meditation, and I can get myself to this deep sense of like inner peace. But I get up from that
Yeah.
and someone crosses me,
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. No,
I'm not,
it's
I have
still
no
self-serving.
awareness.
Yeah, it's still
Yeah.
self-serving. Yeah.
Because what I do in that, because I have no awareness of what my defects are or what my fears are, I'm not watching anymore. I'm just sort of like, okay, I'm here.
Yeah.
Do with me what you will. And you know what I'm saying? Like,
Hmm.
do with me what I want you to do with me because I don't know what the hell's wrong.
Yeah. 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 It's funny.
Make me peaceful, make me comfortable, make me happy. That's where I get again. Give me this stuff.
Yeah. It's
Which is all fine as long as everything's going my way. Then
yeah.
then I
Yeah.
can be totally peaceful and happy and comfortable.
Yeah. I'm so
And then
glad.
let something go wrong.
I'm so glad you had the same experience. Again, though, I was talking to JS about this, and then he was like, "That's just kind of the part of the process." Again, it's like we all go through
Hmm.
stages like that. And I'll tell you this, like, so, and this is what I did last week. It still shows the value of like working with others, like because I was like obsessing. I got back into meditation. I'd had this conversation. We did the podcast with Kurt and Shannon. And like all of a sudden, I was like, well, I'm getting back on it, right? And I was getting back
Yeah.
in, meditation, it's weird. It ebbs and flows. Sometimes I can't sit down and focus on my breath for, a year, 6 months. And then other times I'm just on it, right? So I
Yeah.
got back into it and like I was obsessive about it. I actually had a conversation with Kurt about it. I was like, dude, I'm obsessing about this, right? And then in that, though, I see the value of like, oh, there's a newcomer. Let me go over and just connect with this guy.
Right.
You get what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm calling guys, calling my sponsor, doing all these different things. So I love that. It's so easy. It's just so
Oh
easy
my,
to get in that. Yeah, it's funny because
you
if you
know,
look at it, it's like what you talked about, clamor. Worldly clamor. You know,
hmm
like worldly things. Right? I'm just again like
yeah.
I'm invested. Right.
Well, that's it. Like that to bring back in that working with others piece, because it's, I guess if you listen to this, you could think I was like dismissing that,
No.
which I'm absolutely not.
No. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that piece is vital. That um, I think it wasn't even a full week ago. Listen, my brother's been in the nastiest divorce forever now. I mean, pre like 2023. I mean, this is ongoing stuff. And I got so wrapped up. I mean, the divorce is finalized and there's a property dispute, and I work in property law. So I'm like, here's my way to be a superhero for the family. Put on the cape. My sponsors reminded me, like, hey, no one gave you that role. P.S.
Yeah.
And I'm so invested in like, this has to go this way. I know what I'm talking about. And to the point where I'm like obsessively waking up thinking about it, obsessively going to sleep thinking about it. All my interactions I'm talking to family members about it. I'm talking like the ego's getting fed, like fed. My knowledge, I dig deeper. I do Westlaw research, like just got to make sure he's protected. And I have realized I am so bound up in knots and I am suffering and I know I'm suffering, right? And it sucks. I don't feel right. And so I stop what I'm doing. I need to do a 10 step. I know this. I'm working from home. I shut everything down, go into prayer meditation, and the whole time all I can hear is my voice going, but if he does this and if she does this, and that's all I can watch it clear as day, but it won't stop. It won't stop. It won't stop. And I pick up the phone for this discussion piece of that 10 step and I call my friend Haley, who's always great 10 step person. And you know, what I realized and what we end up talking about is like I'm using the prayer and meditation to kind of like manage the thoughts around this instead of surrendering them. And then the final thing is her quick reminder, resolutely turn my thoughts to someone I can help. I have a commitment that night. I go to the commitment and boom, it's like silence. Like it's gone. And it's like, oh, right? That's why this works. It's not one without the other, it's all of it together. And once they're tied into each other, that's when the relief comes, right? I didn't go to the commitment that night I didn't even go because I wanted to, if I'm being honest. I frankly wanted to stay
Yeah.
home and just be mad at the world. But I'm
Yeah.
like, I
Sure.
already committed, and what are people in AA going to think of me if I don't go?
Yeah.
So I go, but like by the time I leave and I'm connecting with people and we're talking about this sober condition, it was gone. It was gone. And so, but it's like, what am I doing with it? Because like I don't know that I'm ever going to be perfect about this. We're if I'm ever gonna reach this like perfect stasis where I'm, totally on the beam on 10 and totally on the beam on 11 and totally on the beam. I mean, I've always been working with others. That was the one thing that's never stopped. But um, I just think it's this kind of experience after experience after experience. But the one thing that is really important that I know today is I have to be willing to touch what hurts in those darker places. Like it was my friend Kate who said it, walk through the valley of the shadow of death, but don't camp out there, right? I have to go there. I have to go into those places, and that happened when my little brother died. I had a different experience. This was 2023. I had already lost my sister, and it was this complicated grief because my brother hated the world. He was actively in his addiction at the time, and there was anger and all kinds of other stuff around that. But I did not do what I did with my sister's death this time. um, I went right into the pain and right into the grief. And I allowed it to come up and out and exist within me without trying to push it away. And when people come to me and say, "How are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm devastated. My
Yeah.
heart is shattered." I didn't lie to you and
Yeah.
say, "Well, God's got this. He's in a better place." Because I just didn't even know if I believed that at that point. I was just like, "Yeah, man, I'm angry. I'm hurting." And I allowed myself to be truly in that and be vulnerable about that with the people in my life and the women I sponsored too. Like I can't necessarily show up for you tonight because I'm in too much pain, right?
Wow. Wow. Hmm. I love that. I remember I was listening to you. I think you did the talk I shared with you the other day. I think you did 11th was it 11th step, and you had talked about the
Mhm.
relationship you had with your current boss, and during that, I don't know if that's something you want to touch on, but it makes me think of what you just talked about. But it seemed like you had some really vulnerable, like profound experiences with that whole thing.
Yeah, he died 3 weeks ago actually.
Oh wow, wow,
Yeah, and it was I want to talk when I say like when I cry and I talk about these things, it's not that I am not sad that they happened. I'm really starting to embrace the reality of what this life really is, right? That this death thing is inescapable for all of us, and that every relationship that we have on this earth is truly temporary. Either I die or you die, and that's it, right? It all it's all some sort of temporary but experience. But I remember when so what happened was right around about a year ago, I went in for um my annual review, and my boss gave me the quick rundown of like, here's where you need to improve. And then he stopped what he was doing and had his wife come in, who also works in the office, and told me that his cancer was terminal and that he would not survive it, right? And I was heartbroken. Like, listen, this man, I've had job sober, and it was not an easy route for me. I have 11 felonies. I wasn't super hireable. Like, I didn't I you know I've expanded on my education and experience since I got sober. But I was always afraid. Even the law firm I worked at prior to this, they hired me. They never did a background check. And I was like, sure, if you're not going to look, I'm not going to tell you. If you ask me, I'm not going to
yeah,
lie about it. But,
yeah, yeah.
that's kind of what it was. But I always had this feeling like I'm a fraud. But when he hired me, he knew. And he called me and he had said years ago, "I'm not interested in who you used to be. I'm interested in the person you've been for the last decade."
Wow,
And I knew who his soul was. Like, I knew who this man was. He had watched his beloved partner die of alcoholism and he couldn't save him.
wow,
And he knew what a gift we get here in Alcoholics Anonymous. So it was an honor to work for this man and his wife. It was just the three of us in our satellite office and with a pretty big firm.
wow, wow.
So he tells me he's at the end. And so my first thought is selfish. To this day, I don't want to do this. I'm scared.
Yeah,
And what do I do? Like, do they have a place for me at this firm? Will his wife even stay with the firm? And I don't really work for her anyway. He's the managing partner. Where will I go? The head starts running, right? Where, how am I going to pay my bills? What if I lose my job? And, uh, and thank God for having experience upon experience upon experience and knowing what my true morals and values are today. The one thing I know about who I am today, I am not the person who walks away from a dying friend. right? That much I knew. So that selfishness and fear was overtaken by the truth, which is like, I just have to show up, which is like what this fellowship would a really taught me to do. Like the basic stuff that you talked about in the beginning, that real basic
Yeah,
stuff, like
yeah,
just show up, just be there,
yeah,
right? And I'm not even talking about all the deeper work that needed to be done in that moment. It was just like, you just show up. This is what you're taught to do. And I showed up, and I would listen to his wife talk about the difficulty of being a caregiver and the fear she was experiencing, and I walked with them, and like, yeah, a little over 3 weeks ago, she texted me, his wife texted me, and one other person in the firm, and that's it, and said he's probably not going to make it through the day, and he didn't, and he died surrounded by the love of his family. And I know I went to the funeral and sat Shiva with her, and I remember walking into that room and walking into Shiva, and it was the whole firm went to the funeral, but I was like, I also want to do this second part of it. And it was early because I'm type A and I show up super early, and I'm one of the first people there. And my head when I'm going in is like, she's just gonna think I'm weird for being here. I don't really belong. This is for family. And she was standing with a group of people talking, and she stopped what she was doing and ran across the room and threw her arms around me and hugged me and thanked me profusely for being there. And the first day we worked in the office together after his death, she shared with me his last moments, the song she sang to him while he was going to sleep, like everything. And I realize it's like, this is the experience of the life I get to live today as a result of this work, and going beyond just the rote memorization of prayer and the running around trying to put a superhero cape on and save people. I get to live in the moment to moment to moment beauty and pain of living life. And it is so beautiful and it is so powerful. And my sponsor was like reminding me throughout, every single time I got freaked out, I was like, this is hard. I had to be the one to clean out his office, and before he was even dead, because he wasn't coming to work anymore. And I was like, I don't want to do this. And she said, but you get to do this, right? But you get to, and it sounds corny because like when people, well, you get to do that. No, but we do, right? Like, isn't that this whole thing that we've been avoiding since we picked up a drink, was all of the hard stuff, that all of the life stuff. And now it's just like, I'm in these moments that are painful, and I'm scared, but I'm not running and I'm not anesthetizing myself anymore. And I cannot do that unless I am willing to really be open and gut level honest about what's going on within me, and allowing a power into those spaces to heal them.
yeah,
Because when I'm showing up unhealed, it's all about me. Well, what about my loss? What
yeah.
about my grief?
Sure, yeah, sure, yeah. I love how it's like a deeper, because in the midst of all that, it's like we're still like leaning towards spirit. That's like in the midst of it's still, there's so much pain going on. I recently, I was at a men's retreat. My sponsor did the Step Brothers and not Step Brothers. He did the Usual Suspects retreat here in Nashville this past year, and he was talking about, at 17 years sober, he ran his life into the ground pretty much. He's unfaithful to his wife. He shares about this from a podium. I got his permission.
Yeah.
But he talks about how he ran his life into the ground. Everything just come crashing down on him, right? And he kind of ties that into his mom. This relationship he had with his dad his whole life was never really that solid, right? He'd always had resentments towards his dad, and his mom just passed away last year, and she had made the comment. She had, late stages of dementia, and made the comment to his wife before she passed away that his dad cheated on her, like, however long, he was a kid or something, when John was a kid. And but when he was talking about this, and he realized, like, all of a sudden, like, over a 6 months to a year period after that, he had some more understanding on the relationship he had with his dad, and he realized that his mom, knowing the kind of character she had, like, she just probably beat him over the head with this information for years, right? And it occurred to me when I was sitting there, like, because here in Lebanon, we got like my sponsor and his wife moved here, four years ago or something. We have a really nice community here. Like, it's a whole lot of love, right? And we're over at his house on a regular basis, like 20, 30 of us having big book studies, having game night. It's just drenched in community, right? And it occurred to me that, like, you know, this is a result of, like, in the deepest, darkest, sometimes worst, most painful moments that you go through, still choosing love and, like, and you know, and you know, and leaning towards spirit, you know. And I'm sure you got all this talk, you know, like what you said, you got the selfishness and all this coming up and coming up and coming up and coming up. It's a constant. But like with Alcoholics Anonymous, what y'all have done was y'all have taught me how to just move. My feet keep moving in the direction, in the direction, in the direction, in the direction, right? And it occurred to me that, like, the community that we're involved in, like, you know, and drenched in, full of love is, you know, it's just spirit, you know?
Moving in the direction of love. That's it. It's that simple. It was all the complicated stuff I tried to make about this. You hit the nail on the head, because it was never complicated. And I know we like to discount all that stuff we learned in the beginning, all the basics of showing up. And like, listen, I am all for, like, I am a big proponent of, you know, addressing emotional sobriety. And I am the messy alcoholic who's running around 8 years sober, driving to the boyfriend's house, catching him cheating on me and punching him dead in the face, and then hopping on Zoom to give a good talk about God. Right. That's me, right? That's me. That's the truth about me. But moving, when I go to those places and I have the community of people who show me the way to heal these wounds, to pull them up, to talk about them, oh my God, I was just listening to a guy the other day, unrelated to Alcoholics Anonymous. It was some cult documentary I was watching, but he said it so succinctly, and I'm sure it's a quote that's been around forever. But the antidote for shame is vulnerability. That's what he said.
Wow.
Just tell the story. Just tell the story. And so no matter how painful or embarrassing, I think the story is, you taught me to tell the story, and you gave me a safe place to tell the story, and you taught me to be a safe person to hear the story. See, I used to think I used to have to sit in inventory and, like, say something profound. I don't have to do anything other than hold space for you and be a trusted closed mouth friend and make it safe for you to tell the story, so you don't have to carry it anymore. You know, if I see something maybe that I see in me and we are in each other's mirrors, I'll reflect that right back to you. I get it. But the truth is like, that's it. That community, that thing that you talked about, sitting in that room full of people. I remember sitting on the floor the night Ben died. And I didn't know what was going on, and I didn't even want to breathe anymore because I wanted him to be alive so badly, right? I didn't want this to be happening. Sitting on the floor of my living room. And all I knew was the people moving around me, they were all AA. They weren't doing anything. Nobody could do anything. But, like, in those moments, in all of those moments of my life, now, today, those people in that room are guided by love. That's the force they're guided by. They show up, they get in their cars at 9:30 at night, and they drive across lane. My friend Becky just hopped in her car. She didn't ask if I wanted her there. They just got in their cars and showed up at my front door. I learned it from you, right? That being guided by love. So that give and take, that reciprocal love that we experience here, you know, I have an imperfect family who is very loving. And I never knew a life without love, but there's something different, special, and unique about the love in AA, because there's just not a single condition on it. And ideally it's like there's without judgment, right? Because you will get my 8 years sober insanity of, you know, or somebody, maybe not you specifically, but somebody's going to get it. Somebody will understand.
It's still coming. And that's still on its way. You get what I mean? Like a few years, I could still get to that space, like, you know, by the end of the year.
Right.
You get what I mean?
Yeah. And it's like, oh, that's such power right there. The power in community. I had sent my sister a song earlier today. It was this guy had wrote this song about his estranged sibling, and I'm in my car driving to go just do basic tasks. Another thing that I like to do, you know, that we get called to do is just like, I go to my friend's mom and shovel cat litter for her because she's disabled, right? Or scoop that. You know, just basic little service tasks. But I'm in my car and I'm bawling my eyes out about this song, and I sent it to my sister because it just reminded me so deeply of like the divides and the wounds that happened within our family before we lost our siblings. And she was talking about the two things that connect us, that are just like a rich history, a connected history and community, like be it a religion or a community, and nature, and being in nature, and two very basic things that she found connecting. And I couldn't find the connection I found here. I couldn't find it in religion. I tried, and many people do, and yay for them. This is not a dig at religion, right?
Yeah.
But like, there's just something so powerful about the healing nature of you understanding me and you allowing me to safely share with you the weirdest, darkest, most painful parts of myself.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. My sponsor, he always, and this is my experience, but he talks about how vital the transparency in him and me. You know, it's like he's just, he gets it. He gets it. I've had in the past, like other mentorships or whatever, where I felt challenged to share certain pieces of information because I felt like they were like. And this is obviously probably something to me, but it was just like a tidbit righteousness, I felt like. Right?
Yeah.
And I was just like, I can't share this. And I'd gotten pretty sick spiritually, like just with secrets or whatever, but the transparency, I love that you touched on that, the brokenness. They call it brothers in our defects is what my sponsor says. It's like we're defective. I mean, it is what it is. And, it's just the connection that comes with that, It's I didn't find it in church neither, I didn't find it in church. Yeah. It's as simple as having, like what you talked about, moving towards love or moving from love, and like for a while now, my meditation practice has almost been so simple where it's like, all right, what is it that's standing in the way of me loving the person in front of me?
Oof.
Like, what is it that's inside of me right now that's standing, or thinks that for this person's love, it needs to be like, they have to be, act right or whatever, it's conditional, right? But what is it that's standing in the way of that? And if you look at it like, and I love how you just, earlier you were talking about, you touched on the wounds and the healing that needs to happen through that third column, right? But it's that simple. It's like, man, and, I'm not I consider myself a Christian. I don't go to church. I'm probably not accepted in the majority of the Christian circles out there. But like, when I get into some of the parables and stuff, not to go into a religious talk, but some of those parables were just like have some profound shifts in them where you're like, wow, it's not conditional. It's not conditional. It's always, it's unearned, unmerited, and that's
it.
Yeah.
Unearned, unmerited, right there.
Yeah.
Like, and the reason, like, two reasons I think it's so vital to be fully transparent. Number one, I spent too many years in AA meetings with just, the whole, God's got this, it's going to be great, instead of talking about like the current suffering where it led to really sick, dark places, right?
Yeah.
But then the other part of it is like, I cannot use the 12 steps or alcoholism to try to earn God's love, because I don't have to.
Yeah.
Right? That's the greatest lie of all of it, is that I have to earn this power's love, that I have to earn acceptance, that I have to earn it. It is my birthright. It exists regardless of what I think about it.
Yeah.
It is the question I ask myself. You ask yourself one question. My question is, could I be wrong? Could I just be wrong about all of that?
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, some of the spiritual questions on earth is like, just could I be wrong about my idea about this person, place, thing, experience, right?
Yeah.
Just could I be wrong? And when I'm willing to ask that question and step outside of my belief system on that, could I be wrong that I need to sponsor, all of these people in order to, earn my sobriety? I was just talking to a friend of mine about this the other day, about like transactional relationships.
Yeah.
That if I go into any relationship that with the idea that I need to get something out of it, then I'm on the wrong track. And that includes sponsorship. Like, we get this false belief that I earn my sobriety through the more people I sponsor. It's not about earning our sobriety. It's about being given the space from the thinking mind, being relieved of the bondage of self. And I can't do that without you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That vital piece of working with others separates me from the bondage of self.
Yeah.
But going even further with the transaction with humans is the transaction with God. And so back all the way to the initial point when we started at in this conversation, is that when I start using the steps in a very specific way, I start doing, like, am I doing this right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That becomes a transaction with God.
Yeah.
That becomes, am I doing this right? And then I start misreading quotes in the big book. He provided what we needed if we kept close to him and performed his work well. Okay, I'm going to get a payoff. God's going to give me what I need. I'm going to be okay if I do God's work. And it seems like a trade-off until I'm slammed with the truth after Ben dies. You know, I had a woman come into my home group, and she started sharing shortly after my brother died, and she had multiple siblings, and they're all sober, and they're all in the rooms, and she starts talking about, I prayed, and they're all in the room. God got them all sober. And I tell you, I was viscerally angry leaving that meeting. At God. Like, why? I guess God, I guess I'm not. Oh, and viscerally angry and full of shame because I wasn't good enough. I didn't earn this. I wasn't doing God's work. I wasn't performing it well enough for God to do this for me.
Yeah.
Right? Because I thought what I needed was Ben to be here, for Amy to be here. I needed them to be alive to be okay. And I had already started writing inventory before Ben died, because we had a big fight right before he died that I, thank God, I amended before his death. But he was already on my resentment list. And I remember reading the inventory, and I'd written it all out, like a whole expanded third column, and everything was, I'm afraid I'm not good enough to save my brother. I'm not a good enough sister. I'm never going to be able to be good enough to save my sister. All over and over again.
Yeah.
Repeated.
Always. Yeah.
That's all it ever was.
Yeah.
And then I bring God into that. I'm not good enough to earn God's love, care, and protection.
It's conditional. Yeah.
Yeah. It became conditional again, and I didn't even realize that happened. I didn't realize it crept back in. And once I had this like experience, like, whoo, I walked away from that fifth step. I never cried so hard in a fifth step in my life, let me tell you. God, my poor sponsor, like, I could not breathe. It was like hideous, ugly crying. She paused. That woman was hydrating me. Like, it was brutal. But boy, the light and the love that entered me after that experience, my God, because I knew it was bullshit.
Yeah.
Because the shift in perception in that fourth column was that none of this is true.
Yeah.
None of it is true. What I needed was to continue to walk through this experience of life and be okay with or without my siblings being alive. And God did that for me.
Yeah.
Right? God healing my broken heart. That's what I need. God using the experience of the deaths of my siblings to help other people. That's what I need. Not what I want, but what I need. And I've always had that.
Yeah.
Always had that. So that for me is like where the real power hits out. Like, once I have that experience, do I carry that into the world? Can I carry that openness and love? And that comes from like that earth-shattering grief sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I'd be as empathetic and open and as vulnerable if I hadn't lost these two beloved human beings.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to be around other people's grief when I had an experience that was like, oh,
Same.
they're there.
Yeah.
They're there. And then it happened. And now, like, I know how to sit in a quiet, loving presence for somebody and not try to fix their pain.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge gift for this life and for this program.
Yeah. Looking at it from it's safe and protected, right? It's that feeling of neutrality.
Mm-hmm.
It's that gift. I love how, I was listening to one of Kurt's talks last week, and he talked about, when I'm looking at when I'm looking at step 4 from a 10 and 11 perspective, it's all just fantasy. It's just, self is, I was caught in self. I was blocked. I got this, I'm defending something, needing to defend something, whatever it is. And, I'm blocked in that. But then, we have that shift that happens, just like what you just talked about. And I love how he calls it. I like specifically how he calls it the condition, because if it's a condition, it's not necessarily me. It's a condition.
Yep.
As it goes back to what you were talking about with the healing, all these wounds and stuff that are inside us that just need to be healed, right? And
yeah,
I love.
And
that.
how do I heal them? Is I just let them be, right? I don't try to put something
Yeah.
on them to
Yeah.
make them okay. I
Yeah.
didn't know it was that simple. My whole
Sure.
healing had been I have to put a solve on it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
I don't have to do anything
just
with it. I
painful.
just have to stop denying it's there.
Yeah.
I have to allow it to come up and out. That was it. My body, and I don't want to get too woo-woo, but my
Sure.
body remembers the pain. It remembers the trauma. It knows it's there.
Mhm.
If I just shove it down, I'm like, let me go work with another alcoholic, and so I don't have to feel this discomfort. Hey, man, sometimes the most spiritual thing I can do is weep.
Yeah.
Just sob
Yeah.
uncontrollably, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever had that experience where like once you finish crying and you just feel like that, like this silence surrounding you and you're just like this comfort because I allowed the pain to express itself
Yeah.
and I allow God to like hold that for me, and I don't have to I didn't try to put a purse on it or a boyfriend on it
Yeah.
or a sponsee on it, right?
Yeah.
Or social media on it. I didn't try to put anything on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah.
I love that. Yeah. My current grand sponsor, I had him on the podcast last year, and I had known this deeply, but I never really spoke about it. But like, we talked about just walking around with a deep sadness, right? It's like I still have that, whether it's childhood or whatever. I've had a lot of people pass away too, and it's there's a deep sadness in here. That's okay. It's going on. It happens. It takes place. It's currently going on. And he was the first person that really, it's funny because I was experiencing that and I didn't even realize it. And then, it was like he kind of confirmed it or affirmed it, whatever you want to look at. When he said the same thing, I walk around with a deep sadness, and it's okay. It's okay. He's a grief, he does grief work and all that. So
Yeah, I mean, again, that's the other work too, is the somatic healing I do, the grief work I do, the breath work I do to release the pain that my body holds on to.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole other level of that healing that I have to be willing to go into, and I have to be, and listen, I don't even know, this isn't a suggesting practices to people. I don't know what works for you, but I know what works for me. I know some nights it's like, I need to I need to sit there and listen to my brother's favorite music or my sister's favorite, read my sister's favorite books or something that connects me so deeply to these people I love. And I need to cry and I need to weep or I need to heal or I need to laugh about, I need to connect with our loved ones and tell stories and bring this person's memory to life. I don't know what it is for other people, but I know that I cannot be afraid of looking at what that is for me. And that's what's so important is where do I find God? Where do I experience God and where do I experience healing?
Yeah.
And I that could look different for all of us. I think probably the most genius thing that ever happened with Alcoholics Anonymous was them not trying to put some kind of standard for a relationship with God or healing on anybody. They're like, here's this basic spiritual kit of tools, and we suggest you go further, but we're also not going to tell you how to go further with this. You do that, and in whatever way works best for you. And for me, that was the way out. It was like, you didn't tell me.
Yeah.
And I had loving teachers and mentors and guides, and eventually started stumbling on the things that allowed me to express this truth, this pain, this vulnerability. And I stopped lying in the rooms. I stopped saying I'm fine when I'm not fine. I stopped getting up from the front of rooms and standing at podiums and telling you, yeah, I got sober and everything's great. I would tell you, I just punched my boyfriend. I am not well. I just had to I had to make an amends. I did an 8-step list. An 9-step talk right before Ben died. And it was the day after our last fight. And I started with, I just made a huge mess with my brother and he's suffering and he's sick. And I know I have to clean this up, which I did. But it was I don't lie anymore.
Yeah.
Because I think we need to tell the truth about what this really looks like, because life will always be uncomfortable and messy and weird and painful. But I would argue that that this is the way out to walk through all of it unscathed, neutral, safe and protected, not super comfortable all the time, not always happy, not all that stuff, but I'm getting through it. I'm getting through it.
Yeah, I love that. I love how when you just touched on like one of the best things Alcoholics Anonymous did was, not brand God pretty much. It's if you look at that just that alone, it's the embracing the power beyond it. Like like how are we going to confine it or define it? It's like they let you have. You want you to have your own experience with it. Don't have to look like mine. Don't have to look. Talk to us about it. What's that look like? I think that's what this whole episode's been about. It's just and it's not necessarily about how we're feeling. And when people first come into recovery, they don't. It's always how you feel, how I feel, how I feel.
Yeah.
So thank God that thank God for all this. Right. Thank God for the power.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
Thank you. I had such a wonderful day with you. Thank you, and I hope you're able to enjoy your family time. And
for sure, yeah. Thank you. We'll plan something, maybe another date here in a few months or something, and we'll do another episode. All right. Is there anything you want to touch on before we exit out of this?
No, that's all I've got.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
I hope you do as well. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome back to Three Legacies Recovery Recording Podcast, where we explore the ongoing journey of recovery and the spiritual growth that comes with it. If you enjoy our program, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to share with a friend. Please note that the views expressed on this podcast are solely our individual views and do not represent any official stance of any 12-step program. We are not affiliated with any specific recovery organization, and this content should not be considered professional advice for alcoholism or addiction.
Hello, everyone. This is Paul with Three Legacies Recovery Recording Podcast with a quick note before we get started. The opinions shared by our guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of our podcast. Our goal is to simply provide a platform for honest, open conversation. We don't make any money off YouTube or any of the other platforms. This podcast is completely self-supporting, and we've spent a lot of money, time, and energy into it, simply just because we love doing it. We're not trying to make a profit, but we are trying to cover our upcoming expenses if that's at all possible. If you'd like to be a part of that, you can make a contribution at our Venmo, which is Recovery Recordings 615. We'd like to keep this commercial free. Thank you.